Greetings, everyone. Welcome to episode 16 of the Metaverse Nomads, where we talk about all things related to the metaverse. And joining me today, I have three of the additional usual suspects. We've got Andrew, we got Fancy Hat, and we got Bonafide. Banjo will probably be joining us a bit later, and Ray will be out for the day. And of course, as always, we'll be happy to take in your guys' comments so that you can kind of weigh in on some of the things we talk about as we cruise through it. How you guys doing?
Hey guys, welcome back. Looking forward to this episode.
Oh yeah, good times.
Indeed, yeah, 16. I saw that comment there. This is episode 16. And by the way, even before this, we did a brand change, and I think we had another 6 as the Mirandus Gentry back before this. So yeah, we've been at this for a little while now. And the thing I like about when we do these is that it's not just my opinion. It's not just Andrew's or Fancy Hats or Bonafides. It's like we come at this. There's a lot of things we agree on, and then we have our own opinions about things. And so it's just kind of a wide range of thoughts and ideas about all the things we discuss. And of course, we weigh in on what you guys have to share as well. So with that, we've got stuff to cover. I think one of the biggest things on a couple of folks' minds, and that is last week, our episode was for the most part dedicated to the announcement from Star Atlas that they had struck a deal with the club, a guild within the Star Atlas community, for $3 million in in-game assets. And so we all weighed in what we thought that meant, lots of speculation. However, since then, there was actually a statement made by Michael Wagner, the CEO of the company. So yeah, let's dig into that first. And we've got news across the metaverse to talk about quite a few other things. So first thing I want to mention, and some of this right here is my own personal opinion. And I feel it's important to share these things because my interest in the metaverse as a whole is really about what it's going to develop into. And along the way, we're going to find lots of projects and lots of companies. And I think it's important to speak openly as a community about some of the things that we see. So the takeaway from that statement, as I saw it, and for those of you that have seen it, you may have different views and you're welcome to weigh in. The biggest takeaway was that the statement was nobody got special treatment. I'm not certain that I agree with that. For those of you that have seen the statement, you know that it's got a number of parts to it. And if you haven't, you'll probably have to go to the foundation room, which to me, again, raises questions because there's only about 110 people in that channel within the Star Atlas community, which represents about 1 in 1,000 people across the entire Discord. So for me, it's kind of like, I'm curious why a statement like this would only be exclusively shared with just 100 people. Now, the big takeaways, if you didn't read that, was that, again, that nobody got special treatment, that everyone had the ability to reach out and discuss opportunities and bulk buys, that we did not see these sales as presenting a disadvantage to any player across the ecosystem, and that it is assumed that demand will be lower across those items given the higher price point. Essentially saying that because these ships cost more, that the demand would be lower, which I find curious because we haven't witnessed that as a part of the ship sales. When I purchased a few of the Calico Guardians myself, I recall that those went pretty quick. So to me, it seems like there's a higher demand actually for the higher ships, especially because the higher up you go in a ship, the more influence you have based on the capabilities and power of that ship. What else? Oh yeah, here, that's of all of the inventory that was pre-sold, essentially outside of the market, the market process, like when there's a ship drop, when you and I and everyone else in the Star Atlas community goes to purchase these ships have already been pre-sold. We're told that it doesn't impact the price that we're paying, but there's no way for that not to be the case because you have more people scrambling for the inventory. And so as we've already seen, when ships are dropped, there's a lot of people that are stacking up the order books with higher than the MSRP. And if you have fewer ships that are going to be made available, you're going to have a lot more people on that front end trying to get them as we scramble for what remains. Another thing to consider here is it was mentioned that there were 7 individuals, guilds. We don't know who they are, but 7 deals essentially, which include YGG. It was also mentioned that YGG was one of the first ones. So in essence, they were saying, well, we already told you about a deal with YGG months ago. And that was in October, around the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th somewhere. Well, however, with that particular deal with YGG, it was never suggested that they were buying ships off the traditional order book and that it was over the counter. It was just suggested that they were committing over a period of time $1 million. A couple of other significant statements that came out of there. The dynamics of the purchase has benefits and disadvantages. We at Star Atlas feel it creates a fair trade-off for participation in these transactions. That's basically an effort to say that, well, they had some disadvantages when they bought these, so it kind of balances out the fact that they got this deal. So there's really no benefit beyond that, beyond what anyone else might have. And then they say that in full transparency, they do want to note that there is one additional purchase agreement that has to be not yet been finalized. Yeah, that's what we've got right here, this last statement, but not yet announced. We intend to fulfill our obligation with the group behind this purchase. So a couple of questions that came to mind for me, as I already stated, there's 110 people or so, roughly, in the channel called the Foundation Room. But yet, and these numbers for the total number of people in the Discord actually have been updated since. It's 112,000 people in the Discord. So that's literally like one person out of 1,000 people in the Star Atlas community that have been privy to this statement. So my question is how is that power to the people? And who are the people? Are the people just those 7 groups that got those deals behind doors? Is the people in the Discord channel, the 110 of us that are in the Foundation Room? Or is the people the entire Star Atlas community? Or is the people, everyone across the board? So yeah, people were impacted by it. So it was special treatment. There's really no way around that. So did Star Atlas provide special treatment? I think it's a resounding yes. I think that anyone that's looking at this rationally would say that the folks that had those over-the-counter deals absolutely, positively have an advantage over those that did not. Now, the other thing that's kind of alarming and concerning to me is that in those deals of the people that actually were able to take advantage of that, how is it possible that in the future they do not have an advantage when it comes to staking claims, when it comes to taking advantage of opportunities within the game? To me, that kind of stacks up to special treatment any way that you shake it. It's a distinct advantage. Again, there might be people that have different opinions on here. You guys know, if you've been a part of this show or seen any of my other content, I pretty much shoot straight from the hip and I say what's on my mind. I think that it's important to keep companies honest to where their actions are congruent and aligned with their words. And in this particular case, I don't think it was. And I think that it was minimized after the fact. It wasn't transparent. Here's a good analogy. Imagine that we just saw a press release about an election that took place. And we're like, well, wait a minute. What's going on here? I didn't get a chance to vote, and I didn't even have a chance to run for office. They're like, well, you could have had you told us about it. Like you told us about your interests. Well, I didn't know what I didn't know. So how could I tell you I'm interested if I didn't even know you were holding an election? It's very similar in that regard. The information was not made available to everyone. And even this statement isn't. It's just with a small 1/100th of a percent available to the people that are in this one single channel. So those are my thoughts on it. I'm not going to dwell on this much further. I'd be happy to hear any of the other nomads here weigh in, as well as those of you that are watching this. But for those that are curious, like for me, what do I think now? I think Star Atlas is still a great project with a lot of potential. I am now approaching it from the position of paying attention to what the company does action-wise versus being enchanted by words. Power to the people at this point, in my humble opinion, is that it's a hypocritical statement, because power is not given to the people, it's given to a few. And the people are not actually being honored with transparent information from start to finish. It's not transparency if you're telling people things after the fact. Now, the other things that weigh in for me looking at this as a project is, will Star Atlas launch Score in 2021? We're down to about 5.5, 6 weeks before the end of the year. I'm hoping that they're going to be on track with that. And the other thing that I'm concerned about, and I would be thrilled if this comes to pass, is will ship staking rewards be near 8% per month? If they can figure out a way to pull both of those off, Star Atlas and I are good, and just looking to see what the future holds. But again, paying more attention to actions and being less enchanted by words, because that is what speaks volumes. Anything you guys want to share or weigh in on this?
That YGG where they put in $1 million, they said it was a partnership, so I think that's why everyone kind of just blew it off. It was like, oh, it's a partnership. They gave them $1 million, but not to buy the ship. So.
Right. And now it's 3 million, and people didn't know they had an opportunity then when it was 1 million. And side note, I actually did, on behalf of Rome, contact Star Atlas through probably not the best channels. It wasn't through email. It was through DM messaging in ways that I had communicated in the past. So it wasn't a one-off message, but I did inquire, and it's the only message of mine from before or even after that was never responded to. So there's a number of things for me personally that leads me to feel as if this was not exactly open to everyone.
Yeah. As you guys, go ahead, Fancy.
No, you can go first, mate.
All right. Well, as you guys know, I'm always skeptical. I love NFT gaming and the idea of it, but I'm always skeptical of projects prior to them actually showing that they can actually produce income for people, especially lower income bracket type individuals. So for me, watching this whole situation go down, it's a bit, scary in a way. It kind of puts you off, but at the same time, they have done a lot of significant work in the area of building out this ecosystem, building out the game, building out the white papers, the econ papers. I think that the project still has a lot of legs. So what I did was I participated in the fire sale. A lot of people were selling their ships because of this news. A lot of people were very upset, and some of the more expensive ships dropped by very large numbers. And the cheaper the ships were, the less they dropped. But I picked up some ships at a very cheap price. So we'll see how that goes, and if the 8% per month works out, then I'll be feeling really good about the project. If the staking rewards doesn't happen for whatever reason, then obviously we have to reevaluate what's going on here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think as a group we are one of the guilds that are harder to please. But if we are not saying anything bad about you, that means you have our stamp of approval. In a way, we call it as we see it, and we thought this deserved to be talked about.
Yeah, and there's another consideration too, is that there's 6 of us that lead the Guild Rome, and we've seen a substantial amount of growth in the past month or so. We're soon pushing close to 2,000 people. And so, I mean, at least me personally, and I think the rest of us, we kind of feel an onus to lead properly and to make sure that we're creating opportunity for the members of our guild. And so, yes, we're going to have a tight eye on what is going on in the projects that we're involved in.
The best things we can do right now is educate and keep them honest, as you said. If you disregard the projects, everything else, we're just a group of gamers who are picking a horse, pretty much, and we hope it's going to win.
Right.
I think you just said it right there, Fancy. I mean, I've never been a fan of what we used to call fanboys, right? I'm not about to sit up here and, protect and defend a game when they're messing up. I'm not going to protect and defend the devs when they're messing up. I'm going to go ahead and call you on it, because the only way for us to get the kind of metaverse we want is for all of us as a metaverse community to push back. Every time we see an issue, we have to push back. And here with the Nomads, we did that first when we changed our name from the Gentry to the Metaverse Nomads, because we're not going to stay loyal to a project. We're going to roam the metaverse, and we're going to shift our attention where it's going to be treated the most valuable, and we're going to invest our assets where it's going to be the most valuable, and we're going to bring it to you all in a way that you all can also take part in that journey.
Yeah. And it's important that we do, especially right now that we have a voice about what is being created. There is so much money that it's ridiculous that is flowing into this space right now, because all of the major corporations, we touched on this last week, every big company from Amazon to Apple to Facebook to Google, they all want to stake their claim in the metaverse, but they have different incentives and motivations for doing it. And information is a big part of it, which means that once again, we find ourselves in a position where we could become the product, as where with the power of blockchain and with the power of governance and with the power of these projects, it presents opportunity for the collective and for the masses to dictate what that future looks like. And so, especially if a company is going to carry a flag as empowered to the people, we want to make sure that it's more than just words. And if it is, by all means, we want to support it. But it's the actions that we pay attention to. With that, we have a bit more Star Atlas news. For example, there has been an update to their roadmap highlights. And I believe we've got a screenshot associated with that. Aha.
Yep.
So no confirmed date to report for Score. Score on-chain program near completion. Score UI components near completion. Linking UI blockchain program in progress. Smart contract auditing firm lined up. And no modification of any target dates. Still on track with current guidance. So what do we think that means? Do we think that Score, which is essentially the mini game, which does that stand for again? It stands for Ship Commission on something Expedition.
Yeah, that sounds right.
but the point is that it's essentially ship staking is when it begins, and so we'll have access to the mini game interface through the same interface that we access now to get to the leaderboards and to get to the all the other stuff that we see there. So yeah, the question is does that mean that it's still on track for mid-December? Yeah, that I love that screenshot. I mean, the screenshot that you just showed there with the X4.
Yeah, go back to that.
Yeah.
This is, and we talked a bit about this last week, but it's like I think it's the first taste that we really got of, okay, like what are the forms of measure for a mission? We notice you can commit multiple ships. It's going to tell us the specs of, I don't know if it's the collective of ships or individual ships that are in that fleet, how many days that they're going to be out for. And we don't know if we know ahead of time, like how much fuel or when that comes. Do they end the mission for the fuel? Do you have to make sure you've got enough for the entire mission? So yeah, but this is the first kind of piece that really stood out as, hey, here's a glimpse of what the experience might look like.
You know, it's you and me both, Jesse, tend to have a joy and a love for strategy games and, stuff like that. So this screenshot right here actually piques my interest. Managing a fleet and actually earning income off it is pretty exciting to me, which is another reason why I aped into more ships with the fire sale.
Yeah. And then there you go. Sorry, if you could put that comment back up one more time.
Ship commissions on remote expeditions.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks,
it has
Bodie.
a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we also got another taste from the Star Atlas team this week. This one is a bit more obscured, but we get to see fuel, food, ammo, and they're all depleting at different rates, different amounts of inventory. It does look a bit more complicated to uphold, I guess.
Well, it looks
That's
like
interesting.
There's going to be some good food choices on board instead of just like a squeeze tube of nutrition.
Got yourself a Pokemon.
Some Tang.
Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that actually gets me excited for the game. It's looking like it's actually getting closer to a launch where we can actually start earning and playing and participating. And so I'm excited.
Yeah. Do you think there's going to be an auto refill or an auto refresh for Max? for the lazy consumer on the go?
Good question. Yeah, is that process automated where you can be like, hey, I've got a pool of Atlas, just take what you need as needed to keep my ships in action, or like how much of that is going to be hands-on to make those adjustments?
Yeah, very interesting.
And it's also, curious to note that, like, with these here, what do we think the cost might be as it relates to what you earn? So, for example, let's say that let's just use a round number. Let's say that you earn 1,000 Atlas on this extended mission with your fleet. Do we think it's going to be like 5%? Is it 10%, 25%? Like, what do we think will be the resource cost of maintaining your fleet for these missions?
Well, it seems like quite an easy way to balance the costs. You just make food more expensive, I guess. But at least in this early stage.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, these are economic tools, right? And so, like, one of the things that first got me interested in Axie was that they had the two different tokens as well as the Axie, and I saw immediately how they could play around with the economics and adjust value and protect their economy. And so, what Star Atlas is actually doing here is what they would call like a sink in the old video games, like a gold sink or a money sink, where they would cause you to spend a bunch of money in order to cause inflation or deflation of the currency. So these are just tools that are going to allow them to do that in reality, right? And so seeing this and knowing that they have economists on board makes me think that they're going to be able to protect the price of their token value a lot easier. So I like it.
Yeah, we don't see repair on here. I'm curious to know like what some of the factors will be. And like, for example, let's say you pool a couple of ships together, or let's say you just have a single ship. Let's say you have one Calico Guardian on your mission. Well, we know that this is a ship that has it has a hydroponics facility built in. So does that mean that your food costs are nil, as in you have none? Yeah, you see there in the near the one of the last things in the back there says hydroponics. So does that mean your food costs are taken care of? Or there are costs associated with your hydroponics, and is that weighed into food? Maybe it just reduces your food costs by 60%, 70%, or something like that. Or let's say that you got a C9 and you also have an R8, a repair ship in that fleet. Does that dramatically reduce your repair costs? Does an R8 have its own repair costs? So lots of interesting questions about how fleets, when combined, and what bonuses, bumps, and resources they all have.
Yeah,
good comment from Bodhi Tree earlier. He was saying you can pull resources when your Atlas has higher buying power, but you can manually restock ships. Smaller ships need to be restocked more often. Thanks, Bodhi.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's take a look at the leaderboards this week. During the sale, like the flash sale that occurred, some interesting things happened. So the total values pretty much stayed the same, but each faction gained like 1,000 members ish. So the like total leaving the market was still the same.
I thought Mud was at 16 million. Maybe not.
There could also be bugs with this. It hasn't been the most reliable.
Yeah, because I seem to recall like the totals last time being somewhere around 45 across the board, and now it looks a little bit light. But yeah, there's lots of fluctuation, and we've seen in the past where they pull ships out, probably doing some tweaks and adjustments on them before putting them back in, and some other things as they're building towards the mini game. So yeah, these numbers will continue to flex, but that's interesting. So you're saying that total players has
increased
grown
by 3,000 pretty much, but
across the board.
Yeah, on each one there was like 1,000 each, but the total values stayed pretty consistent or close, which I found quite interesting.
Yeah. What do you guys think will be the impact on that? On I see here that Bodhi is also mentioning that ships are lower in price on the books. And again, there's ebb and flow.
Yeah.
It's news based. It wasn't just the news with the club. It was just delays. Delays will do that. Also, when crypto's doing its thing, folks are making moves, and so that's probably has an impact as well. But all those things, basically get down to changes. But what do we think will happen when the mini game goes live, and then people are either reporting earnings happy with, or just it's obviously going to stir news because right now in the metaverse, there's all of these games that are gearing up to be played, but only a handful are actually playable. So once Star Atlas kind of joins the ranks of the playable games, do we think we're going to see a big group running towards here, and those numbers go up exponentially?
I think we will. I mean, personally, I'm the type to, I do the early investor rounds, before you can actually make income, but I'm going to go in a lot harder if I'm actually earning, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they get everything going and we're making 8% per month, I think we're going to have a nice increase. So like I say, I mean, with the ships dropping in price right now, I'm taking advantage.
Yeah. And the other thing that's a kind of an interesting thought about what that will look like, and we talked a bit about this last week. So we're going to have the mini game start. Rewards are going to start. And we've seen in the past where we've showed you the rewards chart that are part of the economic paper, where you can see that for the next 2 years or so, there's going to be a gradual increase monthly, I guess, in how much Atlas is released as a reward. And the same thing with Polis. And the question also will be is what will be the impact on the price? And will Star Atlas adjust accordingly? Let's save it for some reason, because all of a sudden you've got all this new Atlas being pumped into the market due to the rewards and emissions. And let's say Atlas drops down to 6 cents, something like that. Will there be an adjustment to the rewards to match the actual value of the ship the way they established it in the first place? Hopefully so. But that's still an unknown. All right, let's see. What else have we? That brings us to some news with Gala. And this is an interesting one. I don't know how many of you that are watching the show now follow Gala. I know a lot of folks are into both Star Atlas and Gala, and some are into just Star Atlas and even other projects. But Gala is actually how Rome the Guild came together in the first place, and how all of us met. And so it's been an interesting journey. And you see here on this first one that Gala climbed 400% in a week to 47 cents, which is just insane. If you had asked me if I thought Gala was going to be able to hit 47 cents this year, I would have probably bet pretty heavy against it. I mean, it was literally 1 cent when Rome, the guild, was founded. So that's 47x, which it's nuts when you think about it. And
I'm not going to lie.
What makes it even crazier is that what's the news behind it? Because I've searched, I don't see anything directly. What do you guys think?
Town
side?
Yeah, well, you said earlier, what is the effect of having a game you can play? And the Coinbase listing this week brought a lot of news and new people to Gala. So their only working product is going to be one of the first things people look at, and people are earning right now. I know we're going to get further into this, but it's the power of a proof of concept.
I think you're absolutely right, Fancy. I mean, anytime anything gets listed on Coinbase, that's huge for the project, Right. But I agree with you there, Jesse. I mean, if I'd never thought that we were going to hit 10 cents, you know what I'm saying, this year. So where we're at right now, I mean, we've all been in Gala for a long time, so we're all happy with that, right?
Indeed.
Bodhi's saying they made the Gala node only purchasable with Gala, so that would be a big factor as well if people are having to cash in. What current price for nodes?
I heard it was
that's a factor.
96,000 Gala to buy one. At least this was a couple days ago.
Yeah, so that would explain a lot of big jumps.
There's a lot of people that have been holding Gala over a couple million, and now $96,000 Gala to buy a node is not that bad if you've been holding for that long.
Yeah.
Especially at the current price of a node. I just checked this out. I mean, the current price is $37,000. We're almost to $40,000 USD per node if you want to buy one. So that's the amount of Gala you would need, or the value of the Gala you would need to purchase.
I kind of felt like I was late to the party when I bought my node in April, maybe May, and it was about $9,300. And at the time, it was producing over 1,000 Gala a day. And now distribution is down to about 368 daily. However, all things considered, if for some reason Gala manages to maintain its 47 cents a day, that means single node distribution is in the neighborhood of $150 daily, which is nothing to sneeze at for sure. So the other interesting thing about nodes, for those of you that aren't quite familiar with it, a Gala node is and I forget, I can't speak clearly to the numbers, what the price when they started or what the last price will be. There was a price hike within the past few months. But the idea is to create a distributed network so that the games in the Gala network are utilizing the resources of all of these Gala nodes. And a node is essentially a server. Like mine, I host it on a VPS. And honestly, I haven't done anything with it at all since I installed it day one. I haven't even thought about it. I haven't even logged into that server. So it's basically an honorary server at this point, in my opinion, because it hasn't had any of the updates. So at some point, my guess is that it's going to become a network that will be utilized. Right now, I don't really think it's being utilized very much. But they are about to make some additional changes. And I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on what that's going to do to the existing nodes, because they're about to come out with a Townstar game node. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
So initially, I had a similar journey to you. I bought my node at like 8K, and then they had some good news, and I bought another. And I was waiting for people to actually be earning before I bought a third, and that didn't happen soon enough for me. The reason I got into it was because I knew that a lot of the developers and a lot of the founders had nodes. So my thinking is that obviously they have to protect their own investments, and they're gonna also want to earn alongside me. So I'm basically playing with the creators, as it were. Yeah, exactly. So that was the reason I got in. The Townstar nodes gives me a bit of worry because once again, Gala Games is a massive sales team, and they're just selling more and more things, and I don't like that. But at the same time, going back to my earlier statement, I know that the developers and the corporate board members and whatnot all own these nodes as well. So I don't think they're going to hurt their own investments. But it is an interesting thing.
Hey! This is an investment.
Yeah, I'm sorry. These are not investments, right?
No, yeah. What were they saying? It's supposedly not supposed to hurt it. It only affects Townstar. It's only supposed to support Townstar, and it only gives Town. But the founder nodes also are supposed to also provide Town as well. And
Right.
then one way they said they wanted to mitigate it was they only wanted to sell 400 at first, and then they never wanted to exceed 10% of the active players that are playing at one time. So it was, it's 400, and then, sorry, give me a second, I just saw it here. Oh, here, it's every other week they're going to release at least 50 licenses at a time, or until it gets up to 10%, whichever comes first, is how they want to do it. So they're trying to mitigate as many as they're selling as possible, so it doesn't affect the founders as much.
Awesome. Hey, welcome, Banjo. We were just chiming in about some Gala news about how Townstar game nodes are just about to go on sale. They're postponed till next week due to some login issues. But from there, we just talked a bit about the traditional nodes. What do they call those? What are those founders nodes?
Founders nodes, yeah.
And about how Gala has now spiked up to 47 cents, 400% in just the past week.
Whoa.
And what do we think the Townstar game nodes mean for the Gala ecosystem and for the existing node owners? What will the impact be?
Well, I'm not sure who's giving their perspective yet, but here's what I'll say about the Townstar nodes. They swear up and down it's not going to impact the earnings of the founders nodes, but I'm struggling a little bit to see that. I was under the impression the founders nodes were going to be the network, and then when they needed capacity, they'd add on some game specific nodes. And in respect to them, I know we don't have all the details yet, but if you're providing earnings to another new type of node owner that aren't going to the original node owners, that to me sounds like impact. So, we'll wait to be more to be seen later. I think at this point in time, everyone's loving the price of Gala, which, I think is reflective of the Coinbase announcement. So anybody who's a node owner is probably whole at this time and kind of enjoying it. But I'm a little bit on the fence on the individual game nodes at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I was at too, Benj. I agree with you as far as the Townstar nodes. I'm not sure if I'm plus or minus yet. I guess there's all ways to be seen, right, at this point.
Yep.
Yeah, my problem, so I'm not going to get a node that's out of my price range, but my problem with Townstar is when I tried it during the Mayhem event, there was loads of competitions with prizes where you could win Gala, and when I found out that people were just leaving their computers on 24/7 and running scripts to sell their resources, that put me off as someone working like a full-time job at that time. Yeah, I haven't touched it since, but I'm tempted to now with all this price action.
Yeah, well, I think with the Gala price, just doing some rough math here, it seems like we're pulling in around 150, 160 a day.
Yeah,
in Gala, which is nothing to sneeze at. I'm good with that. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, you keep that up, Gala. We good.
Yeah, we'll show you some love.
I just really need them to launch a game that I understand that is play to earn, because I don't get the Townstar thing. Like, some people say they're making money. I haven't figured it out yet. It's not, I don't know, for whatever reason, it just doesn't pique me as far as my gaming style. So as soon as, if they can do something with spider tanks where you can earn money or something like that, I'll be back on board with them.
Well, go ahead, Jesse.
That was kind of my experience, similar to what both you shared and also what Fancy was saying. I played Townstar for about a week, and I mean, when I play something like that, I dug in. I made it in the top 100, and then I'm like, okay, I think I understand some of the dynamics. There's more that could be strategy-wise, but from the top down, it occurs to me that it's a game of bots, and it's a game of, in some ways, pay to win, because many of the things that give you a significant advantage are really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, as we all know, Eric Schumeyer and a good majority of the founding team at Gala Games are from the play to win community. That's the kind of games they were developing in the past, right? That's how they earned all their money and created their I forget the name of their original gaming company they were part of.
Zynga.
Exactly. Thank you. So, that's what Zynga was all about. And so, that's what I see from them in Gala Games, is that they're bringing that same perspective to the metaverse, which isn't necessarily completely bad if people are able to ROI and earn. But obviously it's going to be very bad if they're getting people to sink a lot of cryptocurrency into their projects and they're not earning anything in return.
Yeah.
Monticus mentions here he's making 140 a day for 40 seconds. That's impressive.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Monty. I needed to hear that. That's the kind of thing I'm looking for.
And for those who
go ahead, Benjo.
I was just going to say, for those who don't know, Monty is one of our squad leaders and making waves in the guild. So he's a player within Rome.
Indeed, he
glad
is.
Glad you've all you've done, Monty.
Yes, sir. Always a good shout out to Monty.
I mean, that's one of the most exciting things about all that's happening in the metaverse, is that there is literally on the horizon a way for people to make enough to where that is their living. I mean, it's the first time that anything of that scale has happened in human history, where a person can literally make all that they need to sustain life online playing a game. that becomes what they do for their life. And imagine there's going to be people born, the next generation, the generation being born now, they're born into a time where that's an actual career choice for them.
I was born a few years too early, because that's my dream right there.
KNAT put up this in chat, and I don't know if anybody's going. I think we have a couple people in the guild who have bought tickets. And for those who haven't heard our comments on this, I just think that the idea that they made those tickets so expensive was ridiculous. I would have liked to have gone, despite my I would call it love-hate relationship with Gala. I still think it would have been interesting to see what they've got on the table and see what they are going to do. But man, they priced it way too expensive.
Well, hopefully they make a serious shindig out of it. I want a gift, expect a gift bag with some gold bullion. They are going to actually, I did read somewhere where they were looking to have some high-end bands, recognizable names as a part of it. So who knows? I mean, maybe a person that spends $50,000 for a ticket will be like, man, that was an epic experience. Didn't expect that. I'm suspect, but I'll wait and see.
Yeah. Well, I don't go to a convention to see a band. I go to see stuff about the game and what's coming. So it's kind of feels like it masks what might not be there if you're trying to attract people with big names. I know they're putting more into marketing and trying to get more people like influencers and higher level influencers involved. But how about charge half the price and we'll skip the bands?
And even in addition to that, how about you comp tickets for the people that have already spent thousands and thousands of dollars with you?
Node holders, hello.
That's the biggest thing with me, right? Node owners should have got a seat at the table for sure, right? I mean, that's a fairly significant investment for a lot of people. And then what about these Gala Gold people, right? I mean, they haven't. These are the kind of things that make me worry about Gala, because they haven't done anything to protect the initial Gala Gold people, which obviously they didn't spend a whole lot of money, but for some people that was a significant investment. It was like whatever, $10 or something like that to get Gala Gold back in the day before this project was doing anything, right?
Yeah, and they
haven't done anything to protect it, and they haven't done anything to protect these people,
right?
Yeah. And they're still adding in more Gala Gold people, and you're not getting a whole lot of benefit except for the channel and the badge in the Discord. I mean, I haven't seen Gala Gold people really receiving anything.
You also get the Gala Gold announcements where you hear stuff like 10 minutes before it gets announced. So you get
10 minutes before.
You get access to a marketing channel.
Yeah, exactly
that.
And there is also the thing they try and attach to Gala Gold, which is like a free NFT for each game. So there was the Express Depot for Townstar, I believe.
You got the skin. You got the skin for Spider Tank.
That's it. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think they've done anything for Miranda's.
Gala Gold $70 now. What the hell?
Yeah, wow. When they did that, I assumed they wanted to attach more value to these NFTs that they were giving away, but people were still buying it. So it's working, I guess.
It's kind of backtracking a bit, but what's interesting about the Townstar nodes is the fact that they're airdropping them to a certain number of founders. I also think that's a little bit of a slap in the face. I think the better plan would have been to allow founders either a free license or first right of refusal on cheaper licenses.
Yeah, I think that what they are trying to do to appease the founders node holders is they are trying to give them early access to purchase. I believe they will be the ones that have first access to purchase. And I think they're doing something similar for the Miranda's Vox drop as well.
Yes, yeah. It's 888 will be available to node owners and gold and Gala Gold owners.
Yeah, well, that's nothing really, though. If you think about the number of gold holders, it's kind of insignificant, isn't it?
Well, it's node owners first. This is node owners only. And so it's going to be in 3 stages. By the way, for anyone not familiar with this, so Gala Games did a Vox. It's a pixelized avatar that you will be able to use across the metaverse. And so they did Townstar originally, which had a whole bunch of different creatures, 8,888 of them. And man, right out the gate, it was an absolute disaster of a launch. The actual address was public, and so someone came in and snatched up the bulk of them. Gas fees went over 1,000. It was just madness, pure madness.
I saw someone take a screenshot of the gas prices.
Yeah,
ETH at the time.
Did you ever get a refund on those gas fees, Jesse, that they said they were going to give out?
No. What I did get, and I'm getting to that in this story here, which is interesting, is that so after that all went down, there was a bunch of people that really got screwed out of stuff, and I happened to be one of them. And so, and Banjo and others. And so essentially what they were doing is they're going to say, look, we're going to make this right by giving you an NFT ticket that ensures that you'll get a box in the Mirandus drop. Well, that Mirandus drop happens to be coming up soon here on December 6th. And I will say that Gala did make good on dropping that into my wallet. Now, I was expecting more than one because they were trying to say it was going to be equivalent. I'm just surprised to have seen anything, honestly. So I'm like, okay, well, that's a step in the right direction. And so that one is supposed to give us the right to mint a Mirandus Vox. And I think the Mirandus Voxes will actually be of more value than Townstar. But what's really strange is that on OpenSea, man, when those Voxes hit, there was Voxes going for as much as 40 ETH. It was just insane. And so I'm curious to see what that's going to look like for the Mirandus Vox.
Yeah, it was. So I can tell you a couple of things right now. It's when they first came out, you're right. They were coming out for 40 ETH, but those are like the super rare ones. Yeah. And I think it dropped down to as low as 0.1, 0.12 or something like that. So it wasn't too bad. But now that they have a function for town, even the cheapest Vox right now is over 1 ETH.
And what was the mint?
Even for the most,
what was the mint price?
300 or something, wasn't it?
It was 0.8888 or something like that.
No, it was cheaper than that, I think.
It was like 0.08. It was literally like a couple $100.
Yeah, it was like, but I just remember they had 8888 because they wanted it for the lucky number, which they're doing again. That's why they're doing 888 for towns for Gala Gold members and node owners, and then the rest of them are going to go like public. But
so my question,
okay. Yeah, I was going to just say for those box tickets, so are they going to get pulled from the 888, or are they going to get pulled from the rest?
I think that the tickets that are already been given out for the mishap, I think those are pulled off the top. So again, they're going with the 8,888 total. The very first opportunity is going to be 888, as you said, to node owners. And then I think there's going to be another batch, and I don't know the amount, that's available to Gala Gold and node owners. And then after that, it's a free-for-all for the remaining amount.
Looking at the blog, it says it's for both Gala Gold and node operators.
That's the second phase. But I did receive another message for node owners that the first 888 is specific to node owners.
So my question for you guys and everybody out there watching, who is going to take advantage of this Mirandus Vox drop? Is anybody excited for it? Anybody want to jump in, or is everybody going to just wait and see what happens?
Well, here's what I know. So this is just my personal thought on this. With Gala in the past, and Gala has made me a lot of money. I was less bullish on Mirandus as a project just because I think it's way out in the future. But everything that I have sold, that I've purchased as a result of Mirandus, has been probably close to double, if not more, than what I paid for it. And those numbers continue to go up. I think, and it's been similar with other things, like with the legendary chicken that I had for Spider Tank. I think boxes are similar. There is just a market for the things that Gala sells, and they're very good at marketing their stuff.
They're great at marketing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so because of that, if I can take advantage of being a node owner and get some boxes there, and if I can take advantage of being Gala Gold and get some boxes there, I'm going to do it, because I know I'm confident that the value will be much higher than the mint price.
Well, I mean, if you just look at even the homestead, right? The entry level deed that a lot of us complained about when the price was like $1,200. It's up to 17 grand right now. I mean, that's crazy. And I really think as now Coinbase brings Gala on board, more people are going to look into it. They're going to FOMO into the games, FOMO into the nodes. So I think we still will see some upward price appreciation on these assets.
Right.
I think the challenge. But 1 second. I think the challenge with the box is some of us still got screwed and didn't get a ticket for a new box.
Yeah.
And then the original plan was to allow node holders and then gold to have first access too, and that failed miserably. So I wonder how they're going to do it differently this time so that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I tried to do that last time. I was going to mint 1 and it tried to charge me like 1,000 something. So I did not press accept.
I would say also that as a node owner, one of the benefits that is touted quite often is that there's a chance that you will get one of the NFTs of anything that's dropped to the network. And I can say to this day here, which is from April to now it's November, I have yet to receive anything as a means
Amazing.
of owner.
I've gotten a couple things, but they've been like skins, nothing that's of any significance. There's stuff that you could sell for relatively cheap. And it really seems like they've slowed down on overall NFT drops. And I know they say it's related to the games that are out in the system, but damn, do something. It was part of the even though it's not an investment, it was part of the selling point of nodes.
Yeah.
Do loot boxes of Gala. You don't need to have a game to do like a 1,000 Gala loot box going randomly to node holders.
Right. Do we know when their next server test is, where they're going to have that thing where you kind of run around and grab their Materium, which is their equivalent of mana?
They haven't given the date. December is all we've heard. Something in relation to GalaCon.
Yeah, and if you're listening, Bitbender, how big are the trees going to be?
And not only that, Bitbender, but let's get another good AMA going so we can have that bingo again. McCarthy was on Chain Gaming and he was saying that he wanted to do some bingo, and we're down for it. We just we need you guys to produce some content.
There is that. Awesome.
Challenge
So
again. Nice.
That's Gala news. What else we got? We've got some Axie, not a whole lot. Our primary resident Axie expert is out for the day. Ray will be back with us most likely next week. So what do we know around the world of Axie? We talked a bit about the fact that they have their exchange in place now, and man, I think this is a sleeper. I think there's a lot more for Axie to do here. We know that this past week, for those of us that have scholars, we know that the exchange was just having its issues, man. Transactions getting dropped, the actual data being displayed was not accurate. First, you'd have some SOP there, and then it was gone. And then, when you claim it, it's there, and then it's gone. And so it was messy. It took me 3 days personally to pay all of my scholars. Was that similar for you guys?
Yeah, it was a very painful moment to me because I like to be on time paying my scholars, and that's like the most important thing I do every 2 days out of the month is pay my scholars, and I have it built into where I have a couple days leeway, and I use both of those days and struggled to get it done on time. Yeah. And after we did get it done, there was some bug in the system to where the wallets were showing that the SOP that I had sent wasn't actually, it was showing that my scholars were reporting that they had received their payment. However, in the game wallet, the SOP amount was still listed as being the same. And so I was worried about a possible double spend, but that wasn't the case. It was just a bug. I think they're pushing out a lot. The Axie team is working really hard. They have a lot going on. And so obviously there were some bugs this week, and it was a bit scary. I mean, if I had struggled this hard to do transactions in Ethereum, I'd have probably went bankrupt, right? I mean, that's so luckily it's free on the Ronin Dex or on the Ronin network, and it didn't just completely murder me, but it was rough this week, but I think they're going to come back, so there's a lot going on there with that Dex. What that Dex really allows is it allows for Axie to essentially be its own city, right? Like it's its own ecosystem completely now. You can earn in Axie, you can trade in Axie, and you never actually have to leave the Ronin Dex at this point, because you can go into a stable coin, you can go into AXS, you can go into SOP, you can go into more Axies, all without leaving. So that's a very powerful thing, and I think it's going to bode well for Axie in the future.
Yeah. The screenshot we see here is basically showing like liquidity. Like since they've put this in place and people are able to, create liquidity, there is $1.25 billion already. This exchange is literally a couple weeks fresh, and it already has this kind of activity. And sure, there's going to be some growing pains, but the thing that stands out for me here, and I saw someone that talked about a comment or posted a comment here that of a rumor they heard. And honestly, I have no idea if there's any merit to this at all. But what I will share my thoughts about this is if you look at what Axie has, they're kind of like right now, they're kind of like in the Apple of the blockchain gaming space. And what do I mean by that? They are very cash rich. And what does that mean? That means that they have an audience, they have their own exchange, they have a network. So literally now they don't have to be the game creator anymore. They can literally buy. They are in a position to go into acquisition mode. They can buy games to start filling their network for people to play. They have the infrastructure and they have a whole lot of cash on hand. And so I think that there's going to be some interesting plays around the corner that we'll see. And there's not like any news that I've seen that supports that. But I just suspect that when a company is in this position, then they start making moves that are different because they're in a different stage. When you're in stage one of growing something, there's only so many things available to you. Then all of a sudden you've gotten past that and you have this foundation of things you can leverage, and cash being one of them. Now they can make different moves than we've seen them make in the past. And I think we're going to start seeing that from them.
Yeah, very great point there. It'd be interesting to see what type of people they would try and recruit, if they would look for their own developers, like fresh people, or go after the people who already have a product and then try and port that. But yeah.
Can you imagine Axie stealing a game or a developer from Gala? I mean, that's the kind of money you're talking about right now. You've got people who've got an active product out there that works versus a company that's still trying to get it off the ground, with the exception of Townstar. And if they buy a game out from underneath Gala, that'd be a pretty big news.
Yeah, it would be. And by the way, that is what, Gala's charter is that, and one of the things that I had an issue with is that and I still do feel this, I feel like Miranda's was used to raise capital so that they could then create a network where they attracted game developers and said, hey, look, we will help you sell NFTs. We are your blockchain gaming partner. And and so that's what they're doing. And they're doing it well at this point because they've got some games under their belt. Those games aren't really launched yet, so they're not full proof of concept. But from a news perspective and a perception perspective, they're gaining a lot of attention around that model. So what they have yet to do with it, and will they actually have games where people are like, hey, we've seen play to earn on Gala platform and it works and we're excited and happy about it. That's still, the jury's still out on that part.
One of the things we didn't mention is something iGuard brought up in chat, is that there was a node vote to take away referrals. And I know there was a love-hate relationship with this node vote as well. Apparently a lot of content creators who are kind of big in the industry are going to lose a lot of money based on this no referral rewards. I actually voted no. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got 29,000 or so nodes out there. They raised the price $500. I don't know. They're not doing anything with the nodes right now. So why do we need to go hard on referrals?
Yeah.
No, not only that, but I mean, the fact of the matter is that Gala has earned enough based off of all the spending that all of us in the community have been doing, that they can market themselves now. In the beginning, when they were giving out that bonus, it was due to the fact that they needed a marketing team. And, one of the biggest guys, Jake from On-Chain Gaming, I actually signed up through his link, and he was getting whatever referral fees from me, because that's what I do. And both my nodes were actually bought under him, so that helped those guys out. But now we're at a place where, Gala's going to be doing their own marketing, and they're the best at it, obviously. I mean, they're probably the best marketing team in the metaverse at this point. So it's just not necessary anymore.
Yeah, it definitely seems like these two are destined to fight for the space, and it'll be interesting to see when that heats up a bit more.
Oh, with Axie and
Yeah,
Gala.
yeah,
I think you're right. I think Jesse was talking about that. It's interesting because I think they both kind of are saying they have a similar idea at this point, right? They both want to be a metaverse for multiple games.
I think
yeah.
Axie is ahead in the exchange part of things, and so I think it's a smoother platform. When we've talked with Gala in the past and asked questions in the community and also on their AMAs about how the tokenomics will work, they've gone a couple of different ways. They said ideally in their mind they would love for the game token across all games to be Gala. However, there's going to be many instances where the game developer is going to want their own token. So there's a lot of that, and also the fact that it sits, on Ethereum, which also, Axie does, but now they've created their own exchange where there's a bridge. So you're not paying all those crazy fees. How will Gala do that? It's still not, at least with Axie, it's functional now. And while they're having their hiccups, they're working those things out now. So in that regard, I think Axie is a bit ahead of the game. Gala is ahead in the terms of marketing and the relationships and already working with partners. So it's going to be interesting to see a year from now when we revisit this and have conversations about it. What will it look like then?
I agree with that 100%, Jesse. I mean, when you compare Ronin Dex to Gala Chain, Ronin Dex is far superior, or the Ronin blockchain is far superior to the Gala chain, right? But like you said, I mean, Gala is way better at marketing, so we'll see.
And the other thing that Axie has way ahead of the game on Gala is a means by which that you can engage scholars. There's a way that you can have them log into a game, but not have access to certain things. So that is, we have yet to see anything like that. That's Gala has talked about it, but we have yet to actually see that functionality across any of their games.
That's a model that everybody is talking about copying, but nobody has done yet besides Axie.
Yeah.
As far as I know. I mean, there's some rental stuff, I think, in Splinterlands, but it's not really scholarships.
It needs to be the model of any game going forward if it wants to have the same traction. I mean, Axie's not here, and these numbers that we're looking at on the screen are not here because people like to game with cute little characters. It's really the scholarship model that drove this.
It is.
I mean, it really is. I haven't even played the game because it's not my type of game, and I got in too late to get into the scholarship idea. But once another game picks us up and another game picks us up, and we know that Star Atlas intends to, I think we'll see more and more. I guess spreading peanut buttering this money around to the greater scholarship community, right? What happens when there's 3 games that can make this kind of money? Who's playing the games? I mean, there's going to be competition for scholars at that point, it feels like.
I think you're right, man. So you and I have spoken many times in the background as far as the fact that we wouldn't play Axie. But what really got me passionate about it was the scholarship program, the fact that I could actually impact people's lives around the world and bring them into crypto through this ecosystem was very, very important to me. But I just lost track of the other thing you said.
Yeah. On that note, while you're thinking about that, it's true. And it is rewarding to have scholars. I had another scholar this past week message me and said, "Hey, thanks. I don't need my team anymore based on what I've earned since I've been scholar with you. I have my own team now." And I'm like, awesome. That's awesome. There's no short of scholars out there. So I'm excited when someone has actually been able to empower themselves through working with me, being one of the scholars and playing one of my teams, and then be able to go off and play their own team. I think that's a really cool thing.
That's a powerful thing, Jesse. I actually had mine about a month ago. I've only had one so far that I guess you would call it graduated. He bought his own team, and he's still in our Discord. Like he hangs out with us and stuff still, but he has his own team, and it was like a bittersweet moment, right? Because obviously he's not working with us anymore, but he's still part of the family as far as I'm concerned. It's just an amazing feeling to see people taking charge of their own economics like that.
Agreed. Yep. All right, that brings us to Illuvium News, another player in the space, a project that we've been following for quite some time. I know that you probably follow some of their activities more closely than the rest of us, Fancy. You want to drive some of these bullets and share your thoughts?
Yeah, so we didn't cover Illuvium last week, I believe. but it did hit an all-time high, and it has been slowly going down ever since. But there is a lot of people on their Discord, almost twice the amount of Star Atlas at 211,000. That's crazy.
Yeah, they just keep growing. They're another one that has some. They're utilizing some of their special marketing skills, whether that's an individual or a group of people in house that knows how to get reach and grow their community. We've seen this happen since they were down in the 40s. I mean, all of this has pretty much happened since about March. These guys just keep growing.
Yeah,
Illuvium has the bigger network, right? I mean, they have a big chunk of the YouTubers and a big chunk of early crypto people are all promoting Illuvium. So that's, a lot of the power that they have.
Yeah, one of the ways they do promote it is they offer these limited edition skins for like giveaway competitions. I haven't been that interested in the past because whenever I look, there's always like 30,000 entries before I've even joined, and there's still loads of days left. But this is the latest one. They partnered with Warina, and yeah, I've entered this one just because I think it looks quite cool, to be honest.
It looks super cool, man.
Yeah, so you just go to their Discord, you sign up and link your Discord and email, and you get points for each of that. And there's 5 of these that you can win, and they've done a ton of these already. It'd be interesting to see what these like value go to when there is actual value. But like a 5 of 5 skin that was created before the game even released, or the mini game even, that's really impressive.
Yeah.
So another thing I'm going to talk about this week is Illuvium Zero, and that is their mini game. They've released gameplay pre-alpha, which I'm showing right now, and it's very similar to Townstar, but with like a command and conquer feel, in my opinion.
StarCraft.
Yeah. So what is Illuvium Zero and what is the land sale? This is straight from their Discord FAQ. Illuvium Zero is a mobile minigame that will interact with the main game. Illuvium Zero will be a base building game which will be staged on a piece of land. The free version of land will not produce resources that can interact with the main game, but paid land will actually provide the resources that you'll be able to use in future, which I think is quite cool.
That is cool.
How do you get the land?
Yeah, there's 100,000 plots of paid land, and the first land sale will offer 20k of these plots for like in a Dutch auction style.
That's interesting. Any
And
idea
do we
what
know
the pricing is going to be?
or dates?
So I believe they are going for a open or closed alpha in the first quarter of 2021, and yeah, it's interesting.
Have they been? Is there any talk about this going into a scholarship mode where people can play, or?
So I'm not too sure how difficult this would be, especially since it's a mobile game. I guess you could just. I imagine most games these days, when you're developing a blockchain game, you want to try and incorporate scholars from the very beginning, because it's just such a huge market.
At the very end there, they showed that you discovered an alluvial. I thought that was going to be the part of like being out wandering the land, but apparently you can do that as a part of mining resources on land. That was an interesting little tidbit at the end.
I think all of us will be playing this mobile game. I mean, if it's giving you alluviums, which are the building block of success in that game.
Yeah, so you're getting the resources. So like you're placing down the main center here. You can speed it up if you spend their currency, and there's all of these water and like wells on the ground that you can utilize. But it's interesting for sure.
I loved Command and Conquer. This is giving me those vibes for sure.
Yeah, this is actually making me more interested in Illuvium.
Me too.
To be honest.
Yeah, especially with that price decline over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So right
I'm
now,
just curious what that land pricing is going to be about.
Yeah. Well, if there's that many plots, 100,000 plots, that and only 100,000 in the Discord. I mean, I'm sure it'll be expensive, but I don't think it'll be prohibitive. Any indication, if I'm a new player and new to the ecosystem right now, Fancy, what's your recommendation? Do I get Illuvium and just get on the Discord, or is there something else I should be doing?
So you can join the Twitter Discord, the giveaways on their Discord, sorry, and they post a lot of info there. But yeah, one of the main things they have right now is staking. So people who have been staking since it was first available will have a lot of Illuvium just sitting there now. So that will drive land prices, in my opinion. Like, I started maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and it's gone crazy up because yield farming. But yeah, that's what you'd be competing with essentially. But there's still a lot of time between this and the game. So all the money that you stake in game, you could use that as your fund and convert that to SILV, and then you could take the original amount you put in and take that out if you wanted to, essentially paying nothing, just keeping your money there. Yeah.
Well, based on that video, that replay you just did, it looks like they built a scanner that scans for alluviums, and that's how you get the alluviums. But we know that you need multiple alluviums to grow your alluvium. So anybody who's interested in this game would be missing the boat if they didn't get on the mobile as soon as it comes out.
Oh yeah, for sure. And one of the things about this, so this was released a while ago, but there wasn't too much more information about it, and that's why we've returned to it today. And I do reckon there will be more information quite soon. But yeah, on the website there is, I think it's an Alluvidex. It's kind of like their version of a Pokedex, and that is basically it categorized in Pokemon every single thing you encountered. So it's like a dictionary, and pretty much I imagine this is how you would discover all of these different types, and that'd be quite cool. But the resources, like from the buildings, is what you'd be earning.
Awesome. And then the question will be, how much time do you have to put into it? How much of it is automated versus I have to sit there pressing a screen all day to earn?
Right.
It looks. I imagine it'd be like Clash of Clans. You set the buildings down. You might have to do some defenses eventually. Actually, maybe not. But yeah, at this stage, it's quite hard to say how much time. But it might just be as simple as setting things up, upgrading when you have enough resources. But being on mobile, it'd be a lot easier to be like playing 24/7 compared to like having to play Townstar on a computer 24/7 if you want to win.
If it's like Clash of Clans, I'll be there. I spent a lot of time and money on that game.
So yeah, it's create skins. Cool.
Oh, that's not implied in the game. It looked like you found an alluvium in the game, not a skin.
Yeah, not sure completely how it works, but it's just like the first thing they showed us pre-alpha. Yeah.
But my son, his friends have just recently got into NFTs, and I think my son's starting to FOMO in to some of the different projects, and I've been trying to show him the different projects where you can make money, and Alluvium is one of the ones that caught his eye. He's a huge Pokemon fan. So there's a natural translation there for how the game play and how you get the alluvium. And I think that's going to attract a lot of people, and it would be in whoever makes Pokemon in their best interest to kind of follow suit and do the same thing.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Great comment from the shopping channel. It will be the first AAA release, so not surprised with the hype. Also, people love the Pokemon style game. I'm concerned about gas fees. Yeah,
the other thing it's about the game itself is that if you look at the private investors, it's a who's who of crypto. So it's got some substantial backing.
Yeah, so one thing to note about that, it's using a mutable X. I'm not too familiar with ETH, but I think that's low fees, low cost. So it won't be...
Yeah, apparently it is. Apparently it's a solution, right?
I don't want to get too much into it without the prior knowledge, but they also released this, and it's basically just a little graph of all the synergies you can achieve, out of all the base elements, I guess. In classic auto battlers like teamfight tactics, there's races and there's traits, I believe. Race is like where they're from or like what group they belong to, and then traits are like what they do. So they like use guns or they're mages, and you can pair each of them together. So this looks like one of the combinations you'll be able to achieve. It's it's pretty standard for what it is. Like I personally have the most experience with teamfight tactics. It's gone through like 7 major updates over like the course of it being. I'm not sure how long it's been out for, but they all stem from the same Warcraft 3 game. But
now, when you see like these different synergies, and they have like this listed under there as a combo, and then the player description, when it says water alluvials gain additional energy regen. Now, do we think that is across the board for your team, or is that individual? Are there team benefits to each of your alluvials?
So
and is that...
it's normally quite clear in language what it means. This would be just water types, I assume. So if you had like a full team of water types, then yeah, it'd be the whole team.
Okay.
Sometimes like as you get further into the ranks, it becomes like a buff for the whole team. So it can go from like one individual to like half the team or whatever. But there's loads of different ways they can achieve just like the basic tank, DPS, and utility. And this does it quite well. I'm interested to see how they will adapt this type of thing to change gameplay without like just releasing millions of generations.
Yeah.
KNet brings up a good point down in chat. And I think it encourages a broader discussion about fees, because it seems like game developers have caught on to the idea that the way to their revenue stream is through fees from within the game. And when we talk about how much you can make in a game from a play to earn perspective, in the future, we're probably going to have to talk about net earnings, right? Because there's the difference between what you pull in and then how much upkeep you need to spend, whether it's the 4 R's in Star Atlas or fees in Illuvium. That's going to make a difference in how we assess some of these play to earn games, because, at the end of the day, many of us are playing as investments and to compensate us for our time. So if you're making great money, but paying it all out through fees and gas and all this other stuff, it makes it less worth my time.
Yeah, but if you've been staking, even if you started staking today, I assume you would have like enough SILV to do most of these basic transactions. It's like if you bought a load of Solana 6 months ago for all of your Star Atlas transactions, you can kind of prepare for that in advance, and I reckon it might go well for you.
Yeah.
I guess as long as you can sell what you're farming, right? What you're staking,
right.
You always have the asset you can resell. Sorry, Jesse, I didn't mean to step on you
No,
there.
very valid point. It was just when I saw this question here, it just kind of got me thinking about my own strategy. I think most of us probably found out about this project at the same time. I think it was at about 250, maybe a little bit more. It was definitely under 400. And so, as the project has grown, I'm personally been staking and farming ILV. I haven't done anything with SILV. Simply because the game, for me, I want it to be right on the horizon. I want to be able to use that. Plus, the ILV is locked up for a year. And so, right now, as you begin to claim that, you're setting all of these dates of release. And that's the other thing that's going to be interesting, is that when it comes time for everyone's ILV to be unlocked, what is that going to do to the market price as a whole? It's going to be interesting. We'll note that once ILV surpassed 1,000, it's like immediately found like new support there, because even dropping down from around 1,200 as it's done here in the past week or so, it still has. I don't think it's dipped back down below 1,000, but it seems to have found some new support there, which is interesting. Again, for a game that is not yet released, this the value continues to go up. Now, granted, they are doing some really interesting things with the tokenomics. So if you read their white paper and you understand how they're doing staking, how they're doing fees, how they're trying to offset impermanent loss and things like that, it is pretty creative.
Yeah, it is. And one way you might be able to get around that, like 2-year lockup or 1-year lockup, I can't remember which, is you could be able to like sell the NFTs you catch. So if all of your coin is still locked, you could, I guess you could spend a lot on SILV. You just become like the best Pokemon hunter there is and just sell all of that on the market.
That's what I have. I'm planning my children to do. They're going to be my workers and go look for these alluviums. You know, Alex put there in the chat, fees go 100% to the staker. So that's very encouraging. I love to see that because then it goes back into the people who are actually putting up the equity. And I think what's interesting in the parallel here that just came to my mind is in many cases, these dev companies are similar to private equity, right? I mean, you have, if you're a private equity investor, you're allowed to invest in companies that are still private. You have to meet certain criteria within the equity side, but within these game development companies and through crypto, you're really doing the same thing as private equity. You're getting a little piece of the pie before it hopefully goes big.
Yeah, and I think it's quite interesting to talk about this after we talked about Townstar.
Hey,
Sorry,
I won't tell you what state I'm moving to. You know,
It's so funny. The dynamics are changing. Like, kids, you do your chores. Yeah, we hunted our alluvials today.
there we go. There we go. Now you made your allowance for the week.
Now you can do your homework.
But yeah, this Alluvium Zero game really looks at odds with Townstar. Like they both have quite a similar aesthetic, but is Townstar available on mobile? I don't think so.
You have to download the app.
It plays on iPad well. I did play it on iPad, and it was flawless. I was surprised at how well it worked on iPad.
Yeah, cool. It works mobile just fine. You just have to download the Gala app, and then you can go through it. It works. It's better on a computer, but it works.
Not to take us all the way back to that, but how much can a 7-year-old make on an iPad with Townstar doing the daily challenges?
Yes.
In fun, not labor. It's not labor yet. My government hasn't declared that yet.
All right. That brings us to a bit of news around the metaverse. And these are just a couple of talking points about some of the things we're seeing at a higher level. We primarily focus on a handful of projects that we're directly involved in. But as we know, metaverse news is making its way around, and we're starting to see some interesting changes and how awareness is playing a role in the market. I mean, we already know the market has moved on news and it's moved on emotion, but we've seen that even when the market is doing one thing as a whole with crypto, metaverse related projects are seemingly able to rally, at least recently, a little bit faster. What are you guys' thoughts about that?
I think we're seeing I think the first decoupling we're actually going to see is going to be the metaverse from Bitcoin. Typically in the past, Bitcoin has moved and all the other altcoins and blockchains have followed. And what's going to happen, what I'm seeing is that the metaverse is its own economy because people don't stop playing games. People aren't going to stop buying digital assets just because Bitcoin's down or having a good day or a bad day. And I think we're starting to see that. I think it's going to be slow at first, and I think eventually these metaverse projects, like I was just talking about with Axie and some of these other ecosystems that are being built, they're going to just separate completely out and do their own thing. Hopefully, Star Atlas will do that.
And the metaverse is very community driven, in comparison to many of the other projects.
I think, Gary Vee said it best. I mean, NFTs, right, are basically. That's what they're all about. It's all about community, really. Yeah,
gaming is going to bring utility, probably the most utility we've seen so far into the space that translates from a world before, right? So everything in crypto right now is related to crypto. They're getting it into banking. They're getting into commerce to a certain degree, but gaming seems like it's going to put the the teenagers and the young adults in our space heavily into crypto just by the nature of getting into the metaverse and being out there. And that happens in bull and bear markets. People play those games, and oftentimes, especially with everything that's been going on in society over the past year and a half, 2 years now, people are at home. They're sitting on their computers, they're sitting on their screens, and are more inclined to kind of get into a space called the metaverse where they can go and do whatever they want, which I think has some philosophical downsides to it. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a plus for the price of any metaverse, blockchain coin.
Yeah, that's a good point there, Banjo, as far as the philosophical aspects, right? Like we're definitely at a cusp when it comes to how society is and where it's going to go. Like, who knows? I don't know if you guys noticed, but back to what we were talking about, Jesse, a second ago, as far as community. Did you guys hear about Kylie Jenner trying to buy one of the Bored Apes about the beginning of the month?
No.
So there's this guy, Willie Bullish, and he has a pink Bored Ape, and Kylie Jenner tried to buy it, and he basically said no, and then he blocked her and tweeted it and said he's doing it for the culture. And so this is what we're talking about as far as community. I mean, these are elite communities that are being formed.
Right.
I bought some Playboy NFTs just because Playboy's always had a tight community. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna jump into that. I can't get a Bored Ape, but I can get that.
Was it the Bill Cosby or the Rohypnol one?
Boom.
I found the ape.
Thank you, Fancy. So this is it right here that she wanted to buy, and that was his comment on it. And then
what was it going
blocked
for?
Her.
What did she want? Do we know what the price was that she was offering?
We don't, but I mean, Bored Apes, I think they surpassed CryptoPunks, haven't they, as far as value? So that's like basically the premier community, and she's obviously a multimillionaire, right?
They have like a 40 each floor or something like that.
There you go, billionaire. Yeah,
Bored Apes. I believe they got. I can't remember the artist now, but they got a artist to open up their phone in a music video, and he bought a Bored Ape in the music video. Yeah, literally it was 4 or 5 seconds, but they got paid thousands and thousands for it, of course.
Right.
Let me find out who that is. I can't remember the name.
Lots of stuff that's community driven for sure. And so then that changes the dynamics of even what we think this crypto cycle will be. There's more variables at play now. So it's really hard to say how that's going to play out and how people value things. The other thing I think we're starting to see shift here is accessibility. It's like to get to the people, there's a couple things that needs to happen. One, you can get them close to where they understand how to onboard. So that's what right now, that's Coinbase. So if you can get people easily access to Coinbase, and then if you help them understand how they can easily purchase something, the other challenge is that they won't necessarily understand the value. What is really driving these high prices, in my humble opinion, it's one of two things. Yes, the wealthy can play, but the real driving force is essentially old crypto. And when I say old crypto, we're only talking about we're talking less than
3 years ago.
3 to 4 years ago. Anything after about 2017 on, it could still consider old crypto, especially.
I mean, ETH launched. I think ETH launched 2016, 2015. Yeah, so it's not that long ago.
So in a person's mind, and I've done this in the merchant world as well. It's like when people will spend their PayPal money or their Venmo money, if money's sitting in the account, it has less perceived value than if you're pulling out cash or you're typing in a credit card number. And so with crypto, there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, well, I spent $40 to round up my ETH. And so when they're buying something that's 40 ETH, they're like, yeah, what is that? It's like, this is $1,600 as opposed to an insane amount. So there's this interesting economy of the relationship that people have with their crypto. And so that's one of the things that's absolutely driving the price up. It's very different if a person says, hey, I'm new in crypto now. How much is that Bored Ape? I got to mortgage the house?
I mean, I think you're absolutely right, Jesse, because I mean, just talking about Bored Apes, right? I mean, what does Bored Ape mean? So these are a bunch of guys. Originally, they were a bunch of guys who had made a bunch of money in ETH, and they were bored. And we call it aping when you ape into a project that doesn't have you don't have a good investment thesis, but it's just like, oh, let's try it out, right? And you throw a bunch of money into it. So these guys were basically millionaires in ETH, and they started aping into the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and that's now one of the premier PFP communities, right? And so you're seeing that all over. I mean, people who've been in crypto for a while are looking for things to do in crypto, and the only thing you had in the beginning was DeFi. Now you have the metaverse, which is a lot more fun, a lot more social, and so it's obviously going to be a big boom. And going back to what you were saying as far as the economic cycle, I think you're right. We're going to see a significant change this cycle. Who knows how long this bull run for NFTs is going to go? Because the Bitcoin cycle has always controlled everything before. There's a chance that the metaverse could decouple from Bitcoin prior to Bitcoin actually going bearish this time. And what happens then?
And we're looking across the landscape at things that companies are positioning themselves to be more accessible. It's still higher than what a gamer might anticipate they're going to pay to play a game. If you want an Axie, I mean, you can buy a crap team for like about $400 maybe, but if you want to buy a team you're probably going to feel like, all right, I'm not at a severe disadvantage to play, it's probably still up near $1,000, maybe at least $800.
The same as, I think it's the same as when I started. You're looking at $1,000 to $2,000 to have a decent team. I mean, because you're talking at least probably $400 USD per Axie,
I mean, that's still a barrier where there's not too many kids asking for an Axie team for Christmas. And so you've got that. And then in Star Atlas, you $20, like, hey, mom, dad, can I have an X4 for Christmas? That's reasonable. Well, I mean, that allows them to play, but what actually are they able to do? We don't know that yet. So is that actually the cost of entry? Maybe not, because it might not allow you to have the baseline game experience. Townstar, what can you do there? So that's another consideration, is accessibility for average person to want to say, hey, I want to dabble, I want to get started. Is that cost barrier being lowered enough? And who are the game companies that are going to do that? Because that's also going to be a big factor in onboarding the masses and the average, Joe and Jane general public to be able to participate.
You just mentioned something that I hadn't. Go ahead, Fancy.
So I found that music video I was referencing earlier. He Post Malone pulls out his phone for like 3 seconds.
That's crazy. Awesome.
So he has a Bored Ape then?
I watched
awesome.
CoffeeZilla's video on it, and he tracked down like how much they paid him, hundreds of thousands for like seconds. But that's the type of money, like that's the type of influence this money can buy.
Yeah, and these communities, I mean, you're talking whatever 10,000 usually for a PFP project. You're talking about 10,000 different NFTs, right? So these communities can be fairly large, and when the floor for these NFTs goes to these huge 30, 40, 100 ETH numbers, right? I mean, the amount of power that these communities are going to have in the future is extremely significant, and it's interesting to look at, to see like what are they going to do with that power and that influence.
Yeah, you have to believe that there's going to be some shedding, though. I mean, there's going to be projects that stick around and stand the test of time, and then there's going to be the Beanie Babies and the tulips that
Absolutely.
just you put money into, and as a high risk investment, you lose it. We all of us have probably put some money into a few different projects that have not landed appropriately.
Yeah,
I think 98% will fail. I think Gary Vee has it right. I think the majority, I mean, there's so many of them, they're launching, 1,000 a day of them or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's nuts. So
you mentioned Gary.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Saying you mentioned Gary Vee a couple of times. I saw an interview he did this past week with Mark Zuckerberg, and they were talking about kind of like the trajectory of growth that Facebook has had over time, and now where does the metaverse play in? And of course, Gary Vee has always been big on the idea that people are having an increased perceived value in their digital lives, and that's around NFTs and what those digital representations of their self-expression means. in that digital space, which is now becoming the metaverse. So yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of that, and I think that he's accurate in his assessment of the growing appreciation and attention people are placing on things that they perceive as what they own in the digital world.
Yeah, I've been following him closely because I encountered him here in the NFT space because, I'd heard of him before and I'd watched a little bit and I just thought he was some guy that was, just a marketer selling stuff, trying to get my attention, right? Ignore him. And he comes out with his NFT project and he does it. And the floor for those NFTs, last time I checked a month or so ago, was a 10 ETH floor, right? Wow. So these people, he basically took his community, taught them how to buy NFTs, the whole thing, how to get a MetaMask wallet. He did the whole thing with them, and then didn't give them. I mean, you had to buy the NFT, but it wasn't expensive at launch. I totally missed this project, and he took them to a 10 ETH floor, and that's because he is such a social genius. He's great at knowing how to build community, knowing how to build teams, and yeah, it's amazing. So he's the one that gave me a lot of the information as far as the way I look at NFTs now, and he hasn't been wrong yet. So I suggest everybody look into the content. He's producing a lot of content on NFTs now. I think he's about to launch another batch or something. So I suggest everybody look into him.
And it's interesting on that concept. There are other influencers that are taking their community to the NFT world. And like you said, educating them on how to create wallets and what the whole process looks like. And, Tom Bilyeu with Impact Theory is another one that's done that with his own community. And so it's interesting to start seeing these influencers who have communities pop up and say, hey, we're going to the metaverse. We're going to blockchain.
Thanks for bringing up Tom Bilyeu, because that's one I didn't miss. After Gary Vee slapped me in the face and let me know I needed to wake up, when I saw Tom Bilyeu coming out with his project, I jumped right on that, aped right into it, and they're doing well. And he just launched another project yesterday called Mary Mods. He's gonna basically, it's the first IP on that project, and they're gonna have a Christmas, Christmas show, Christmas story, whatever it is. The NFTs just dropped, and they're going to have a reveal in the next couple of days. So definitely, if you guys aren't involved, I would suggest you get involved with Impact Theory. Look at their Discord, maybe check them out on OpenSea, because they're doing some really exciting things right now, and it's still early. Good morning.
It's a project worth looking at for sure. Yep.
So I see the crypto.com arena thing in there. What's the Barbados embassy about? What's going on there?
So the Barbados is creating the first embassy in Decentraland. Is that right? I'm not sure who put that up, but yeah.
Fancy. He's on. I think he's got something to share on that, unless he's away.
Yeah. It was quite big news. A country purchasing like a digital embassy in the metaverse. It's like one of a kind, or the first of its kind, really. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I did see comments on Reddit which was saying that it's ironic that they're buying Metaverse land when they're an island and the sea's rising.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the way we're polluting the planet, and we're all doing basically the same thing, right? We're moving into a computer because Elon hasn't got us to Mars yet.
So that goes to the question, you've got Barbados going into Decentraland. Which project are these people going to go into and well, I don't want to call it ape into, but at some point, some metaverse is going to be the one that you see governments and retail going into. Is Decentraland that one? I don't know enough about that or the Sandbox to say one way or the other.
Well, so the Sandbox is more gamified, right? Mm-hmm. Decentraland is more like the OG. It's been around. It was first, and that's where like Beeple's art gallery is. That's where Binance has land. You know what I mean? So, right. And now you got the Barbados embassy there. So,
and what's the floor on Decentraland land?
We'd have to look that up. Last time I looked, about a month ago, when I was thinking about jumping into this thing, it wasn't out of range. I think you could get it at like 0.5 ETH at that time. But it's probably booming now, right? You know, I mean, it's you know, real estate's all about location. So at the time I was looking at it, like if you wanted to buy land close to another project that was popular, obviously it costs a lot more. And if you were out on the fringes, it costs a lot less. And so I'm not sure what the floor is right now.
I think Decentraland probably has the most corporate buy-in.
Right.
I mean, unless anyone can think of any other, I think that, and because of that, that tends to kind of set the tone for who has kind of arrived potentially with a future for commerce more so than anyone else at this point. And I think that is also reflected in how their price shot up on just general metaverse news as it relates to the announcements by Facebook.
So to answer your question, Banjo, I just checked it out. Yeah, Decentraland shot up to 2.9. So you're basically looking at a 3 ETH floor now.
Well, I'm looking at their marketplace right now, and you know they have those, I guess those unique names you can buy, and somebody's selling the unique name of Harry Balls for about $8,000. So if anyone's looking for something to get into on Decentraland and want a unique name they can flip, Harry Balls is available.
That's the one.
Well, the reason I asked that question, because it seems like there's opportunities here to get into obviously other projects that are, you know, Star Atlas is niche, Gala is niche. It's their games, but these retailers, when you get into the real metaverse, and I hope it's not Facebook that gets this done, but somebody's going to go in and make one the standard, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then going back to floors, Sandbox is at 1.1 ETH now for the land, and that was significantly lower about a month ago as well. So I mean, talking about like it was a few $100 basically for a piece of Sandbox land about a month ago.
You mentioned something really important, Banjo, and it's something that I plan on doing lots of my own research on, and I think it's something we should cover on the show in the future. And that is that there's going to be a convergence, and the question becomes is what is going to define standards for the metaverse? And I think there's a couple of angles that are being approached right now. One of them is all of the projects in DeFi. So there is the economic platform, like how will people be able to interchange currencies with each other for perceived value? And then there is the side that is who has the ability to onboard the masses. And the truth is that no one really at this point has the advantage to be able to do that greater than Facebook. Why? Because Facebook already has 1/3 of the entire planet who have a behavior with them. They wake up, they look at their phone, they're on Facebook, they go to sleep. It's the last thing they do. So much of the world does that now. So for them, it's a very small change in behavior to extend the metaverse to them. And so because of that, they have a significant advantage. But what they aren't is they're not decentralized. And so you're going to have a lot of things that the DeFi world and all the blockchain projects and the things that are gaming, because gaming is another onboarding means, but it's a more sophisticated user. But often the more sophisticated user is sometimes worth several times in value, at least to a company, because of their knowledge and how they will utilize the platform. So we're going to see this convergence of all of these different approaches. Amazon with their commerce side and the fact that they own the internet from a platform standpoint, you know, with all the servers and things like that. I don't know if you guys remember a year or two ago when half the internet went down, Netflix and everyone else, that was an Amazon issue. So that's how ingrained they are in the infrastructure. So they're going to approach it. Apple, again, because everyone is, you know, used to a phone. I myself wasn't happy about that iCloud update of, you know, of the privacy issues. And so I haven't actually updated iCloud yet, but then I lost a device and I was going to go and use that find feature. I couldn't do it because I don't have access to iCloud right now. So it's all of these learned behaviors that these companies can leverage for how people utilize their platforms, that they're going to start steering people to utilize the metaverse based on that perspective. And so we're going to see it from a lot of different, from Google and theirs and search, you know, and all these other companies are going to approach it from different angles. So the thing that I think we should be keeping our eye out for is who is bringing the value in a way that we want to support it, rather than just have it being developed and us kind of being at, you know, at the expense of how they want to create it.
Yeah, that's the scary thing that you bring up when you mention the Facebook, the Google, Microsoft. A couple of those have already had very clear examples of kind of creating narrative and blocking communication or activities of others. And when you start to think about people going into a world where they want to be more free and have more liberty and not be continued to controlled and have narratives thrown at them, I just don't see myself enjoying an environment where one of the big technology companies is telling me how to think or what I can and cannot do. And
Right.
that's kind of Facebook's thing, right? I mean, they've all become political. And not to take this down that road, but at the end of the day, I don't go into a metaverse, an alternate reality to have my. Wow, that sounded awesome. Whatever that was.
That was my Calico Guardian landing.
But I don't go into those universes to have agendas and narratives thrown at me. I want to escape that stuff, not be wrapped around it.
Or be canceled because you've violated terms and policies, so you're canceled from the metaverse now.
My social credit score wasn't high enough. Yeah.
Or
I think you guys
they can change the rules.
I think you guys are both touching on something that's really important that everybody has to remember. There was a time when you voted with your dollar, so where you spent your money was important, and the most powerful thing you could do if you wanted to protest or whatever was to boycott a certain institution, right? I think now that we have the metaverse being created, you're going to also be able to vote with your attention. Where are you spending your time? What are you utilizing, as well as your dollar still? And so that's going to be very important. So just like we've done with Gala and we've done with Star Atlas, and how we're going to continue to do with all these metaverse projects that are out there, it's very important to shift your value, your money, and your attention whenever these projects misbehave. And that's going to be very important, because that's the only way that they're going to respond to us in the way that we need. And it's extremely important, because everything is in its infancy right now. And so this is the prime time for the people to have the most power. Once things are built and everybody's locked into the Facebook IOI system, it's going to be impossible to get out.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the last slide that I've actually got here with some talking points. And one of these is my own question, and another one is just a consideration of what do the PFP, the profile picture NFTs, have to do with the metaverse? Because I know that every single one of us here has some. Why do we have them? What do we think it means to the digital landscape? As I mentioned before, Gary Vee talks about that, people utilizing those types of things, kind of like, a special pair of Air Jordans or something like that in the real world now shows up as a JPEG, or a image file that people are using as profile pictures. And of course, NFTs now have grown beyond that. There's communities and it represents a lot more than just the image. But what do we think the relationship is there? We've focused a lot on the game side of the metaverse, but what do we think the relationship is between, the PFP NFTs and even other NFTs as it relates to the metaverse?
Yeah, I think this is the beginning of the runway for your digital identity in the metaverse, right? So you've got people who are now using these PFPs on their Twitter accounts, their Instagram accounts. And I think what you're sharing is either tribally, you're part of a group, like with the, yacht club, or maybe you have something that's individual that you have it as a PFP that's going to represent you as your avatar. I think people are getting geared towards having this sort of digital representation of them in the metaverse, and you're just going to continue to see people in. It's going to be interesting, because you're going to see people self-select in the metaverse just like they do in the real world. You'll have the Bored Ape people that are showing up as Bored Apes in the metaverse. You'll have, a different PFP project, and all of a sudden, all this tribalism that you have going on outside of the metaverse is going to show up in the metaverse. Probably a little bit utopian at first, but human nature will show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit earlier about my thoughts as far as like the Bored Ape Yacht Club. The only one that I have that's not gaming, like I said, it's a Playboy project. But at the same time, Mike Tyson has a cool cat that made me want to go out and get a cool cat, right? So, and then cool cat holders get passive income. Just like the Kongs get passive income, right? So, these things are really significant. And if you're not into these PFP projects, you're not looking at them. You need to. At first, I was kind of ignoring it, and I missed Bored Apes and Cool Cats and all this stuff, and it's going to be significant.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are related in interesting ways. Like one that I own a few of, their whole thing is a DAO that is staking in Illuvium. And so that's how the members that have those are earning. So there's some interesting ways that they're intertwined for sure. But even with the Playboy, I mean, even though it's not specifically game related, at some later date, maybe they fully 3D out those rabbits and you could see them walking around the metaverse. So we don't even know how they'll be fully utilized in the future and how many of them are just representative of a project, but how many of them will also be like the boxes where they have that special file where it ends up being a 3D model. Bone World is doing something like that. So a lot of these projects are doing some interesting things, and I think we're just seeing the early phase of what these look like. I think there's going to be a little bit of a die-off of maybe the draw for the projects that are only PFPs. I think we're already seeing that. There was like a big rush of NFTs recently that were pretty much PFP only. That was the extent of really what they had to offer, is that they were, your profile image. But I think that now projects get that they have to have more meat on their bones than just that. What are you about? What do you represent as a community? What do you all bring together? And why do I want to be a part of this tribe? I think is kind of a shift that we're starting to see for sure in that direction.
And let's not forget Twitter. I'm not sure when this update is going to come out, but they're working on a way to verify your NFT holdings on Twitter. So you'll be able to say that profile pic that you're using as a Bored Ape is not a real one because I have that real one. And that's going to be really interesting because, like you say, as far as, I mean, these communities are already, some of them extremely, extremely strong. And so they're going to only get stronger as the technology gets better and interfaces with more ecosystems.
Well, even if you look at it through the lens of Metaverse Nomads, we've got a ton of people who are here on our Discord in support of games, Mirandus and Star Atlas and a few others. But at the end of the day, as we start to expand and we start to open our eyes to new horizons within the metaverse, that may not always be gaming. We could end up being our own tribe. I mean, it's about what you're sharing, what your beliefs are, what your thoughts are, and how you're showing up in this space. I think there's an opportunity for anybody who really wants to get out there and be a community member or a community leader in something. This is a great time with Metaverse.
Yep. Last bullet that I've got here, and we're almost again at the top of the second hour. We always seem to find enough things to talk about to keep us going for quite some time. But this was just something that occurred to me. It's like I'm always thinking of like, what is the future impact? If I can imagine what changes will take place as a result of this move towards digital and what the metaverse is becoming. And one of the things that I got to thinking about is like, I'm curious what impact the world will see in the carbon footprint, and meaning the way that we utilize the resources of this planet. I mean, if you were to look back kind of like rings of a tree, what would we see as a big change within this 100 years or 50 years or 20 years as we begin to shift? Because so much of what we consume in plastic and resources, things like that, that big trash heap out in the ocean, and other things that we do is centered around creating things that make us feel a certain way, things that we hold dear. And as we starting to shift that now, whether again, that's collectibles, whether it's playing cards, whether it's anything like that, as we start to see a shift towards things that we value more in the digital realm than the physical. And I shared that slide last week, which is kind of, that's where in this space, it's kind of like there's a scale and we're starting to see weight slanted towards things that we value more in the digital space than in the physical. And my question is, and I don't know the answer, but I'm curious your guys' thoughts on what impact you think that might have on just like the way that we create and utilize resources on the planet.
Well, I think we're already seeing with the past year and a half or so, people value things a little bit differently, right? You don't see, at least I don't personally see people going out and doing a lot of stuff they would normally do prior to COVID. And I think that's having a positive impact on carbon footprint, irrespective of people's belief. People are just doing less. They're traveling less, things like that. I think the challenge will be there's certain things that you just can't replicate within the universe, right? You're never going to give me Wagyu NFT and it will be as good as real Wagyu beef. So I think there'll always be something that people value exclusively outside of the world that produces, in some people's minds, carbon. What I find interesting is the value of collecting is still there. People want to hoard and collect things. They used to do it with external physical items, and now you're seeing it show up in the digital world. And my question to me that I go through is really, will, baseball cards from the 50s have a lot of value? Mm-hmm. Will NFTs from 2021 have the same type of value in 2070? I know that's a bit of a pivot off of what you asked, Jesse, but I think that the getting into the digital world will have a positive impact on the footprint. And I think that's the idea. I think a lot of people are kind of leaning into this as some sort of vector to help improve the climate, which I'll keep my personal views on all that stuff to myself, but I think there will be a net impact positive.
Well, I don't think you need to keep. I don't. I don't keep my personal views to myself.
I think that's all bullshit. There you go.
This is the Metaverse Nomads, where we keep it real.
Yeah, and in regards to the carbon footprint, I think of it like if you want an axe, you have to. Well, that's not a good example. You need an axe to chop down a tree. If you want wood, you need to chop down a tree. So if you want an NFT, there's a cost to it. And if these things don't have no purpose, hopefully they won't be minted, because that's kind of how it... I can't think of the word. Sorry.
I think it's really interesting to see how the metaverse is already impacting the physical world socially, right? So our good friend Ray, who's not here with us today, was invited and had access to all these parties in New York over the past couple of weeks because of his standing in the metaverse as far as the NFTs he holds. Yeah. Playboy has had a number of parties around the country over the past couple of weeks that you couldn't get into certain areas unless you were a Rabbitar NFT holder, right? Yeah. Bored Apes, there's clubs you can't go into now if you're not a Bored Ape holder, right? And so that's affecting things in the physical world already socially a great deal. Where that's going to start affecting things as far as carbon footprints and resources moving around the physical world, that's remains to be seen. But I think that if you go watch like Ready Player One or something like that, you're going to get an idea where things are going. Yeah. Shout out to KNAT from the chat. It's also going to be interesting to see how retail gets affected when some people are buying less physical objects for bragging rights and buying digital objects for bragging rights. So there's less waste. And I think you're right, KNAT. Personally, as soon as I got Bitcoin, I started seeing physical assets in a different way because I didn't have the power over those physical assets the way I do over my Bitcoin. I mean, you basically have to lock me up and torture me to steal my Bitcoin, right? You any good sized rent, so you could take anything else, right?
Sounded like a challenge.
It's not off the books for some people, so security.
Yeah, exactly. Multi-sig is a thing as well. But so that's the case, right? And I think digital assets are easier to control. They're easier to have. They're easier to maneuver. They're easier to sell and ship and travel with. And so I think people are going to increasingly start to care more about their digital assets than they are going to about their physical assets.
And there's more things you can do with it. Getting back to what Banjo was talking about with the Wagyu beef and NFTs, I imagine an NFT that maybe gives you exclusive access to a particular type of Wagyu beef. And that's the only way you can get it. If you're like, you have a farm, you might say, you know what, rather than trying to figure out what our future looks like and how we're going to sell this stuff, we're going to mint X number of NFTs, and you have to be an NFT holder to purchase this beef. All of a sudden, you have an exclusivity to being able to access a resource as a result of that NFT. I see that as being one of the interesting changes. And the other thing you were talking about is the potential valuation as a classic item of an NFT that was minted in this era. I absolutely think that even the NFTs that right now their projects sucked and their floor on their mints are really low, I think that when people circle back a couple years from now, the simple fact that that project minted at this timeline where NFTs were trying to find their way, it's going to be a nostalgia thing. And I think they will hold extra value later as a result of that.
Well, I think what you're sharing, it makes me think about how far behind policy and law is in this area, right? And we know in the US, it's lagging way behind compared to other countries. But in my mind, just based on everything I've been watching with the SEC case that's been going on now, what you just described with the Waigu NFTs is that's an investment contract then, or at least that's the way it would be treated in court, is that it's an investment contract instead of a Costco membership, which is how I would view it and how I would look at it as if you were going to go with the club route. And again, what you're describing, or at least how I'm interpreting it, is you're now self-selecting in the digital space, just like you already do in the real world, right? So I'm wondering how much different it will really be once all the money moves into the metaverse and once all the boundaries and the walls and the tribalism happens. It might look very familiar.
We're going to see it entangled, because I think another example, and I don't know if this was brought up on a past show, but is like licensing rights. Like right now with many like NFL teams or sports teams, you can buy the rights to a seat, but that doesn't actually pay for the seat itself. That just gives you the right to buy a ticket to sit in that seat. And so, it'll be interesting to see how NFTs begin to play a role in that capacity as well. Maybe there'll be major sports teams that are selling NFTs that give you the right then to be able to purchase a ticket for a seat.
I think NFTs will absolutely disrupt that market, Jesse. I think that's going to be what you're going to be buying in the future. Is you're going to be buying an NFT instead of buying licensing. Let me skip to this other one from the Mysterious R, and I'll roll into that one. He was answering a question I asked in the chat. Pirate Bay is a famous bootleg pirate site for digital media, movies, music, and they created a massive database of copied NFTs you can download for free to prove a point and make folks think. And then he follows up with NFTs with utility will hold a massive premium for those that don't for this reason alone. And I couldn't agree with you more, R. That's absolutely where we're going. And that's why I've been slow to kind of jump into the PFPs, because if they don't have utility, I see myself as just buying JPEGs. And that just doesn't feel like a smart move to me. I did a lot of that with Gala, and I learned, and now I'm a little bit more restrictive in my purchases. And so I like to buy things that are actually having utility. Bored Apes, Cool Cats, even the original CryptoPunks, a lot of Elio Trade stuff that's come out. These things are all being built with utility. Star Atlas is saying they're going to have utility, but Axie actually has utility. So I went harder on Axie than I did on Star Atlas, right? And I think that's going to be the case for a lot of people as we move into the metaverse. Is people are going to be asking, what are we actually getting from these projects? Or that's going to be what the real value is.
Yeah, I don't have an NFT that doesn't have utility attached to it. Either promised utility that's supposed to come or current utility that's kind of in the works.
Yeah. And interesting is that there's a couple where I do, but one of them in particular is turning into a learning experience where I'm paying an education tax. Because
got to pay tuition, buddy.
Yeah,
got to.
And that's how it works sometimes. And one of the big takeaways from that is going forward, pay more attention to the utility.
Yes. Yeah, I was talking earlier about my son getting into NFTs, and this is the same conversation I was having with him. Is he's worked for all his money. This isn't allowance money. This is stuff that he actually went out and did hard work for, and really trying to caution him against paying that education tax, because for him, that amount of money that he has is a lot more meaningful to all of us and our salaries, right? He doesn't make that type of money.
Right, exactly. And all these projects are fairly significant investments for the most part. I think you were talking about it earlier, Jesse. It made me think. I mean, I can't think of the gaming project that you can get in entry level and not spend $1,000 basically, which is a lot of money for people around the world.
That's
in a lot
tough
of cases.
point of entry. Yeah.
Well, to that end, what are you guys watching? Anything that we haven't discussed as a group privately that you guys are paying attention to?
I think the Netflix League of Legends show deserves a bit of talk. It's really raised the bar, in my opinion, for like game adaptations in media. I didn't have much expectations going into it for that reason, but it has surprised me. People who don't play League of Legends are starting to play League of Legends because of that show, and that's a huge mistake. But they know it, and I think that's a testament to.
Yeah. Well, I've been watching Foundation because that symbol, it shows alluvium has landed.
Well,
every time I see that symbol, it reminds me of alluvium, but
that's
not
funny.
alluvium, but Ethereum. Excuse me, Ethereum.
Well,
but yeah,
Oh, go ahead, Jesse.
Just saying, with League of Legends, with that show, I've seen it. I haven't watched it yet. I'm glad you mentioned it because now I'm more curious about it for sure.
Yeah, it's they did a really massive push for a game that is more than 10 years old now. They updated team fight tactics. They added a new champion, I believe. They created a new game that's on Steam now. They have this Netflix show. I think there's something else as well, but that all dropped at like pretty much the same time, which I found impressive.
Yeah, there's been other games that have tried to do some sort of collaborative TV show with it. A few on Sci-Fi, if I recall correctly, but it does seem like a strong extension of marketing, to kind of draw people in who aren't typically gamers. The question more clearly, I guess, is what projects are you watching that we haven't talked about? NFT projects.
For me, NFT projects. Bone World, I like what they're doing because I like the community approach. In fact, one of the other projects that I'm not so hot on, I'm not going to call them out here, they launched at exactly the same time. And I use Bone World as an example to them about how they could do better things with their community to keep the community engaged. So that's one that I do like the floor on that. And by the way, that sits on Solana. That's another interesting thing, is that there's projects that are on Solana, there's projects on Ethereum. There's a new project that I'm about to get into just because I like the art, and I still don't know enough about the utility yet, but I plan to continue to explore that before I name it and talk about it. But it's on ADA, so Cardano. So that'll be the first NFT in that space for me.
You gotta put me on anything you're doing in ADA for sure, because I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, I've already jumped on that whitelist for that one. The one Jesse's talking about. Just waiting to see what's going to happen with it.
Yeah, there's three things. Oh, go ahead, Bonafide.
Well, I was just gonna say, for me, it's you got the Coin Games Dev Squad, which I'm actually an investor in. I hold a few of those, and they have nothing actually going on utility wise at this time at all, but the community and the devs and everything just give me the warm and fuzzy. I'm very confident in them, so I'm just slowly DCAing in, just buying more of those avatars here and there. So that's one of my PFPs, but it's a gaming PFP, so I didn't mention it earlier. And then another one is I think I talked about the LEO Trades stuff that they're coming out with. So he has a couple of games basically that he's launching, and a new one that I'm not invested in. I haven't done my homework at all, but me and my brother and sister were playing the game, and the game's super fun. Is Thetan Arena. And Thetan Arena just launched some NFTs, I think last night. I haven't been able to even look at them or try to ape into it at all, but if it has solid play to earn mechanics, I'll be bringing it to you guys here later. It's the game itself. The game was already out, so you could play the beta a few weeks ago, and it's like a Brawl Stars type of thing, and you just run around shooting each other. It's super fun. And then the last one I'll talk about is Doge Run, which that's my DGen. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere play, but I have a few of those as well. I just like the idea. I'm an old Zed guy. Like, I'm a Zed Run guy. I have a few Zed horses. So Doge Run was very similar back in the day, and I got into it. And yeah, it's fun. Whatever.
I'm looking at 3 projects right now. I've got one on Solana that, and I'm not invested in any of these. I'm just learning about them and diving into them. But there's one called Open Era on Solana, which looks to be sort of a alternate reality game that's going to compete with the likes of Miranda's. But the little bits and pieces that I've seen on Twitter so far are exciting. It looks like it might have like a alternate reality tabletop component to it, which I think is really neat for the people who are into tabletop games. Another one that's, I think it's going to be on the Flare network, if I'm not mistaken, but it's Foreverland's XYZ. That's another open world type of game, exploration-based game. And then there's a development company that I don't know what they're going to do yet, and not even sure if it's NFT-based, called Equilibrium Games on the XRP ledger, that's done some airdrops, and some people have gotten some coins, and they're already trading that coin. And that looks to be more long-term, but it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think it's the first gaming company on the XRP ledger. So those are where my research time is going to so far.
That's good. I mean, yeah, I like, this is something we really haven't done on the show, but I'd like to see more of it. Like, what are we actually into? For me, rather than, and I want to hear the same for the rest of everyone else, but for me, rather than specific projects in the space, I've been really spending a lot of time zooming out and consuming content on how I think the metaverse as a whole is forming. So it's definitely even useful for me to hear what kind of boots on the ground projects people are focused on and what they're finding along the way.
Zooming out, just because you mentioned that, you made me think. For everybody who doesn't know, I don't know if you follow Raoul Paul, but I was watching one of his podcasts recently, and he was talking about creating an NFT, kind of like on the Tom Bilyeu impact theory level, where it's going to be basically a community token for his community. But one of the things he spoke on in that same podcast was he was talking about how they have like a voting system where people can vote for the projects they like, and that voting system was performing better in the market than their bots and everything else that they're using. And so if you think about it, this NFT project could turn into something pretty crazy if you put these kind of things together. And Raoul Paul is a really smart guy.
Yeah.
He is. In fact, he's one of the people that is mentioned that he thinks that this cycle will change as a result of the communities driven by these projects.
Right. Yeah, I consume a lot of his content as well as the other guys I've mentioned.
Another project that I'm paying attention to only to protect myself is there's a Discord called NFT Watchdog, and they seem to be chasing down the bad projects and really highlighting, and they have the people with the expertise to look at the details and the coding, and they're looking for the rug pulls and the people that are trying to scam other people. So if you haven't seen it, or if you're looking for some information like that, NFT Watchdog on Discord is kind of doing that work.
That's cool. I saw there was a couple of comments here from Brain Amazing. We're not going to be able to get to those comments today. And what's funny about them is they're in line with some of the things that part of our past.
No.
Like, what is the utility of a building in Miranda's? That's a really loaded question. We'll be able to touch on it today, but that's a question on a lot of people's minds.
That's a whole other podcast for us, Brain Amazing. But what I would suggest you do is go back in our history, because we've uploaded the Miranda's Gentry videos that we used to do onto this channel. So you can go back and actually look at our thoughts as we were heavily invested in Miranda's, and then we're less invested in Gala Games as a whole now. But obviously we're all still deeply invested in enjoying their ecosystem. We're not haters in it, but we're critical. And so if you go back and consume that, that'll answer a lot of those questions.
And that's hard to be a hater when they're paying you too. Like, they've been very.
Yeah, I'm making a lot of money off Gala right now, my man.
I was going to say, can you highlight his last one, saying why don't we know the answer right now?
Okay, so this literally, if we go down this road, this could be a very long podcast. Here's the short of it. The short of it for you, Brain Amazing. Star Atlas. Gala Games has kept it close to the chest. And the reason they have kept it close to the chest, in my humble opinion, is because they don't even know. Okay. The truth is that they're still very much in the ideation phase. And if you want confirmation of that, look at any past AMA, any time that McCarthy's asked the question, and you see his eyes go up here, like he's like, I wonder what we should do there. So that's the reason there are no answers yet, is because they don't even have the answers.
Mm-hmm. The reason I wear this hat is because I had to stop. I had to cover up all the scars from beating my head against my desk on these types of questions. At the end of the day, all of us genuinely love the idea of Miranda's. I think all of us really even now, really want it to be super successful.
I want to buy an all-site elf today. But
yeah, there we go. And I want a long song, right? I mean, that's right. Totally my game style, totally my character type. But at the end of the day, we kept asking questions and we were just talking to walls. So that's why we had to, for our own mental health, I think we had to pivot away from Gala for a little while and kind of go on to projects that were actually doing something with devs that were at least vocal about it.
I absolutely hope you're right, Mega Raid Boss. I wonder if they're playing the Oblivious game, but then surprise us somewhat soon. That is exactly the problem, is because they are so good at marketing that they allow you the space to create these dreams in your own mind, and then you act on them. And I have the dreams in my head just like you do. So hopefully it comes to fruition, but there's no telling.
And if it is the best game ever, we will absolutely give it props as being the best game ever. There is no doubt about it.
Oh, I'll be the biggest fanboy if they actually do half of what they say they're going to do.
Yeah. We can totally go off on a tangent on this.
That's another 2 hours.
Let's not recap every episode of the Gentry.
Right.
Any other projects? Go ahead, Jesse. Sorry.
No, I was just about to say that we have anything else we want to cover. So if you've got something, by all means, share.
No, I don't. I just I think this is a good format to kind of step off into everything every once in a while. I really like this episode.
Me too. I was glad you brought that question up, and I like this too. I like the more Metaverse Nomad type of podcast as opposed to the more game specific stuff. I mean, we got to do that every now and then, but this was great.
Yeah. Before you were on, Banjo, I shared what some people might think are some harsh thoughts about, recent events with Star Atlas. And at the end of the day, it's really easy for all of us to be enchanted by some words, but what we should be looking for in all projects are, do the actions match the words? Is there congruency there? And as a whole, we are the Metaverse Nomads. We're not the Gala Games Nomads. We're not the Star Atlas Nomads. We're looking at this from a high level, and we're looking at the projects we're interested in. And we still have interest in all of these projects, but there is a bigger picture to contend with. And so that's a big part of the discussion here. And it's always a nice reminder to even remind ourselves that to look at the bigger picture, to zoom out sometimes and say, hey, what is really going on as a whole? And not only that, but what do we want to see created? Because we are all collectively, the audience that are viewing here, as well as us here that are hosting the show, we are all influential in what is being created.
Yeah.
And so,
we're all huge consumers of this space, right? We devour things that we find, and we can very clearly see when there's content creators who are in the bag or in the pocket of another development company, right? It's so obvious to see,
obvious
and how they show up. It shows up in the discussion, and I think as a group collectively, Metaverse Nomads, we're not going to, well, I'm not saying we're never going to partner with the dev company, because that would put us out there in a way that we haven't even agreed on. But I don't think you'll ever see us not be critical of the games that we play when we feel it's warranted.
I think, I know between, myself and Jesse and Banjo, like we're always going to find a way to combat any of these projects, and Ultra and Fancy and Ray have always been standing strong against projects that they love. You know what I mean? Like that's how we've always been. So I don't see that changing. I'm not gonna say that we don't necessarily want to turn down any opportunities, but I don't see us putting ourselves in a position where we can't talk back, because I don't think any of us would do that. Brain Amazing, I probably put $500,000 in that game. I think you're talking about Miranda's there, and you're not alone. There's several people in Rome. I'm not one of them, but there's several people in Rome who have numbers like that. So you're not alone. And some of them are still holding those kind of bags in Miranda's. So,
not to pivot away from this, but just because he popped up in chat or on the screen there, Monty again, He's doing something really cool within Rome that I think is worth sharing, and it shows the organic nature of our guild and how things grow from within. He's within his squad. He's working on a raffle for his team to really build kind of some camaraderie, get people invested, and potentially get a ship that they can't get themselves. So he's doing this internal raffle within his squad, and he's pretty excited about it. So good job, Monty.
Indeed. On that note, Rome, we are the Metaverse Nomads, but we also have a guild, a gaming guild, play to earn gaming guild called Rome. And we're pretty diverse. We're quickly approaching 2,000 members of our guild. Our guild is global. Even here amongst we are the consuls of Rome, and we represent a handful of countries. We're in the US, and I'm here in the Netherlands and Amsterdam, and Fancy Hats in the UK. So we really do try and create something that is representative of what we want to see created. We've got, and it's not just our guild, as you see here, we've got Alpha Industries on here. Thanks for a great episode. We had Prometheus from Alpha Industries on with us last week, along with Christian from Interstellar Alliance. So we like to bring others on. Bodhi, at some point, who you've seen comments from, he will be joining us here on the show as well. And he has his own guild, Tree. So lots of guilds within the Star Atlas community. Rome itself, we're a multi-game guild. We do have a heavy focus on Star Atlas, but we have others that are focused even exclusively on Mirandus and Axie and other games, along the way. So if you're looking for a home, you don't yet have a guild, or you just want to be a part of a gaming guild, that is Rome. You see the link on the bottom of the screen there where you can find our Discord. And with that, guys, man, 2 hours and 22 minutes. It's been a great conversation. I've enjoyed it. I love all the feedback we get from all of you. A lot of regulars that show up here pretty consistently to be a part of the conversation, and we appreciate that for sure. And with that, guys, I'll bring us out with our Rome Guild promo. Again, this focuses on Star Atlas. We are many things, but we're also very much interested in the Star Atlas project. And with that, we'll see you again next week, same time. Cheers.
Bye, everyone.
Are you ready for the next evolution in gaming? Blockchain games are here. Why just play when you can play to earn? Enter the Star Atlas Metaverse with Rome. Star Atlas is a grand strategy game of space exploration, territorial conquest, political domination, and so much more. Rome is a premier guild of the Oni faction within Star Atlas. Rome is here to play and to earn. Want to take part in the action? Rome is accepting new citizens. Join the Rome Guild on Discord to learn more at gorome.io.